If you hear strange sounds, we're going to be having strange sounds all the time, which is the whole point of this marvelous new installation called What is Missing. I'm Greg Farrington. I have the great pleasure of being the Executive Director of the Academy, and also the great pleasure of being in San Francisco. And people in San Francisco are very fortunate to have a truly remarkable public arts program that makes projects like this one possible. We opened this building, the new Academy, 1 year ago. And since then, about 2.3 million visitors have come through California Academy of Sciences, which is okay. My original goal was to beat Alcatraz, and don't tell anyone, of course, but I think we did it. And it's been a brilliant, brilliant year. Our official anniversary is later next week. And if we get a real rush, we can hit 3 million by then. So bring all your friends. We'd like to have a last-minute push. We're also fortunate enough to now have 2 public artworks by Maya Lin. The first was unveiled last year. It's on the West Terrace, where the land meets the sea. And now, Missing, which is no longer. Maya is a dedicated environmentalist, so this is totally consistent with who she is as a person, and we are delighted to have this marvelous Academy bookended by her 2 marvelous works. They're a fitting extension of all that's in between, and they encourage people to think about the world and their responsibility to it. The Academy is all about 2 questions: life, how did we get here, and the challenge of sustainability, how are we going to find a way to stay? I suggest there are no more important questions for our time, and all that you see around here deals with those issues. We'll hear from Maya in just a few minutes, but before then, I'd like to thank many people who made this new installation possible. First, the members of the Academy's Art Advisory Committee. Academy trustees Bill Wilson and Mary Zlott, Arts Commissioner Janine Shabulski, Ron Miguel of the Golden Gate Music Concourse Citizens Advisory Committee, Karen Tsujimoto of the Oakland Museum, Edgar Lopez of the Department of Public Works, and Daniel Cornell, former curator of the DeYoung Museum and representative from the Renzo Piano Building Workshop. Can you imagine? We have Renzo Piano in between Maya. All in one spot. Fantastic. The Academy scientists who worked with Maya during the early design phases of this installation included John McCosker, whom we affectionately know as Dr. Shark, Healy Hamilton, who's with us this evening, think seahorses, Carol Tang, who heads so much that involves public engagement and public programs in the Academy, Terry Gosliner, Brian Fisher, Dr. Ant, Jack Dumbacher, birds are his thing, Frank Almeida, think leaves and plants, and Peter Rupnerine, who's into extinction, or something like that. I also want to acknowledge my predecessor, who played such a seminal role in the design of the new Academy, Pat Kaselik, who's a marvelous person and is now in the faculty of the University of Colorado. The Academy's Director of Exhibit Development, Scott Moran, who ensured that the installation went off without a hitch, just as he ensured that the entire Academy several years ago moved to Howard Street and then moved back without one lost fish, more or less. And of course, the Arts Commission and the City of San Francisco. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Farah, Senior Advisor to Mayor Gavin Newsom.
Thank you, Dr. Farrington, to you and your staff for making this day possible. What is missing is the mayor. Unfortunately, I'm here representing him. He is anticipating the birth of his child, which should come any minute now, literally any minute now. So on behalf of Mayor Newsom and the city, welcome everybody to the dedication of Maya Lin's sculpture. Mayor Newsom, early in his political career, realized the transformative power of public art. More than art in museums, no disrespect to King Tut, it starts a discourse. It challenges us as citizens. What is missing is the perfect artistic expression of what San Franciscans and Mayor Newsom are trying to achieve on the artistic and political front. We're trying to be the greenest city possible. Our art should reflect our time and our values. Composting, water conservation, alternative energy, bicycling, food sources, plastic bags, plastic bottles. We're mocked sometimes for how we lead, and today we're leading on the issue of public art. We use our interactive megaphone in politics, much like Maya uses hers. 90% of our big fish are gone, half of our coral reefs are missing, and between 1970 and 2003, 1/3 of all vertebrate species are missing as well. It is yet to be determined if this is a memorial to our ability to listen or our demise. This piece will speak and be spoken to millions of children in its lifetime, much like this institution spoke to me as a child growing up in San Francisco. Thank you, Maya Lin, for your gift to the city. You have already exceeded our expectations. And thank you to Jill, Janine, WebCore, Renzo, and all of the other people that made today possible. And with that, I would like to give you the president of the San Francisco Art Commission, P.J. Johnston.
Thanks, Mike. I'm actually glad Mike was here and not the mayor. I've heard all the mayor's lines. That was pretty good. Actually, no. On behalf of the city family, including Mayor Newsom and all our elected officials, and especially the San Francisco Arts Commission, it really is an honor to be here and to mark this incredible occasion, which is a momentous occasion for the city's and the San Francisco Arts Commission's 40-year-old public art program. With this addition to the city's civic collection, San Francisco will become home not only to Maya Lin's last public memorial, but also her first multimedia work. And if you haven't already had a chance to take a look and get up close to experience the multimedia aspects of it, please do so. It's a very exciting and innovative artwork. So I'd like to also thank the Academy of Sciences for being such a wonderful partner in this public art project with us, and for welcoming not only Maya Lin, but the Arts Commission to this incredible facility. I know for some of us, like Mike and myself, who grew up out in these avenues, it's always a very joyous occasion to come back and rekindle our love for the Academy of Sciences in this new incredible facility. And what could be a better home for these two artworks, these two pieces by Maya Lin, than this incredible building. We now have two amazing pieces by a world-class, one of the greatest artists working in the world today, next to the building that is one of perhaps the masterpieces in the world in progressive and forward-thinking architecture. This project is actually a result of the city's art enrichment ordinance, which provides that on public capital construction projects, the city dedicates 2% of the capital cost to the development of public art, on-site, publicly accessible. And although the Academy of Sciences is a nonprofit institution, this is on public land after all, and they stepped up to the plate as a wonderful partner. The San Francisco Arts Commission worked tirelessly to apply the city cultural arts enrichment fund, and then we got a little help along the way, and we really should acknowledge WebCore for stepping up to the plate when we needed them to make these two artworks a reality. Finally, I think we should take a moment to not only acknowledge and celebrate the brilliance of the artist, but also the hard work and the tenacity of the many people who helped make this happen. And Greg mentioned a few of them. I'd like to single out in particular Jill Manton, the Director of Public Art for the City and County of San Francisco, who shepherded this project from its inception to this day, with a lot of help from my former colleague on the Arts Commission, the former chair of the Public Art committee of our commission, Janine Shabilsky, as well as another former commissioner, Larry Rinder, who contributed their curatorial expertise throughout the process as well and helped guide it to success. We really would probably not be here today without their dedication and tenacity, Jill's especially, and also the person who's going to speak after me. And that's Janine Shabilsky, who is newly installed as the Dean of Academic Affairs at the San Francisco Art Institute. And I want to thank her and welcome her to the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ, and thank you, everybody, for coming today. It's a distinct pleasure and honor to have been lucky enough to have been there for the very beginning of this project in the commissioning phase and the selection phase, and also to see its culmination. Sometimes we don't get to see things all the way through, and so this will always be a very special piece to me in that regard as well. But particularly, it was a special and extraordinary creative and intellectual opportunity to work with Maya Lin. And one of the excitements of this project has been to be able to watch her creative process unfold and to even be a part of it sometimes as well in dialogue with her. I often use my experiences in the public realm as a platform for my teaching, for my graduate students at the San Francisco Art Institute, who very often do want to aspire to work as a public artist as a part of their career as well. And sometimes with public art, we dwell so much on the environment in which it takes place, which is the environment of politics and civic discourse, which can sometimes be very bruising, and the constraints under which it takes place. Things have to be outdoors, things have to last, things have to be approachable and accessible by all different kinds of people. And sometimes those things can become so overwhelming that even I was laughing a little this morning at the press conference when Maya was talking about, and we sweated the cooling system so much, and we managed to solve those problems. And sometimes with all that, we can lose sight of what is really so extraordinary about public art when it works so well. When Maya came to us with her initial proposals for this work, she said, well, I don't want to do one piece, I want to do two pieces. And we were like, Maya, that's really great. Seems a little complicated, but you go, girl, you know, and we'll see what happens. And what happened was she created two pieces that are not only beautiful in their sites, but necessary to their sites and necessary to one another. And that's what makes this work so extraordinary to me. The work on the other side of the building, where the land meets the sea, asks us to think about what we can't see because it's beneath the surface, and asks us to think about that in quite a kind of cerebral and imaginative way. When Maya began to conceptualize this piece, she was absolutely insistent that it have some sort of sensory, corporeal, tactile relationship to its viewers, that it be about how the world touches you and how it engulfs you and makes you a part of it. So we have a piece on the other side of the plaza that says, this is where we are today. This is the contours of the bay beneath the surface and the particularity of this place. And then we have a piece on this side of the building that says, and we are working from here to the entire rest of the world. And everything we do as individuals when we stand here in front of this piece and think about the choices that we make in our daily lives and think about whether we use that plastic bottle or that recyclable cup has implications in the world as well. And so we hear sounds that engulf us, we hear what puts us in a particular place, and then we are lifted to a world that we have to try to address even though it may seem too big for us to grasp. In one glance, in one gesture, in one action, but it's all of those individual actions that make up our responsibility to the world as a whole. So it's an amazing, amazing piece, an amazing solution to the challenge of working with sound, of working with the broadest ambitions to talk about questions of sustainability, species conservation and preservation and the environment, and do it in a particular way that even a child can engage with. And one of the things I think we think about a lot with this piece is how the children who come to the Academy will interact interact with it. So it's my deep honor as a former arts commissioner and also as a citizen of San Francisco to celebrate the installation of this piece and to thank Maya for the pleasure of working with her. So thank you.
And now it's a delight to introduce Healy Hamilton, who is director of the Academy's Center for Biodiversity Research.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a few words about what it's like from the perspective of an Academy scientist to see the journey of what is missing. I've just been one of many sources of information of scientists that have contributed to Maya's extraordinary journey of knowledge about biodiversity, scientists that have come from both within the Academy and from outside of the Academy. And on behalf of my colleagues, I can tell you that we are thrilled to have a portal to the Earth on our East Terrace. That is a very exciting moment for us. What is missing is a subject that lies at the very core of the research mission of this institution. We are about documenting and describing the diversity of life. And this portal takes you directly to experience that diversity. Our research centers around going to far corners of the world, which we've been doing for 150 years. And so we can offer a perspective on life that is our foundational knowledge. What occurs where on this planet? In short, Academy scientists have been for well over a century taking the pulse of this planet. What's missing allows us to approach the Earth and hear and feel the quickening of that pulse. This listening cone actually transforms the idea of a dry list of many species that have gone extinct into an emotional experience of how small our fish have become, how few great migrations there are that is left, how bright is the darkness of our night sky. And we emerge from that portal recognizing that we're actually on a trajectory. And what is missing allows us to understand what the slope of that trajectory actually is. If we look just from the current and we measure just from what's around us, the slope doesn't look as steep. But what is missing takes us back to how things used to be, and we can recognize just how steep that trajectory actually is. So by reminding us of what is lost, we can see much more clearly where we are headed. So please, the Academy welcomes you to enter the portal that Maya has created, to listen, to see the message that the Earth is sharing, to feel the connections that have been made right here between the past, our present, and our future, and finally to act as if you are part of shifting the direction of where we're headed. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Healy. It's now my pleasure to introduce John Fitzpatrick, who comes to us from Ithaca, director of the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you're just one speaker away from the main attraction, so I promise to be brief. But I want to say, first of all, congratulations to the California Academy of Science, to the board and to the staff. Congratulations to the City of San Francisco and the Arts Commission. Congratulations to Maya for bringing all those thoughts and images and connections that this project has gone through over the last couple of years to fruition here in this megaphone to my left. And it just occurred to me for the first time sitting right over there that that endangered species and extinct species and threatened ecosystems and migrations around the world that are in peril of being lost because of the human endeavor, they all have a megaphone at this point. Congratulations to the City of Chicago for having this megaphone. And what occurred to me is that this megaphone is pointed straight to the rest of the North American continent. and broadcasting to the citizens of the entire country, and if you carry that on all over the world. What we have in store, we hope, for the next millennium, the reversal of the trends that have begun over this past one. When the Cornell Lab of Ornithology is a place that in many respects was predisposed, pre-adapted, to use a biological expression, for Maya's visit, her first phone call, because we have for almost 100 years used birds and other charismatic creatures, whales, white-handed gibbons, and so on, not just to understand how nature works. After all, birds are extremely valuable tools for that. But they are also something much more. They communicate by sound and flight and color, and so they are nature's best attractants, best spokespersons to us humans to think about how nature works and think about our relationship with it. And so the Cornell Lab of Ornithology has, for some decades, made this part of its mission as well, not just to understand science, to understand how species work, but to use them to attract human beings to the idea that we have a relationship with this and that we are responsible for preserving it. And so when we got the call from Maya, who said, I'm going to do a media piece, and I've never done media, and it's going to need some animal sounds, and I don't have any, it was a real treat. This was a no-brainer to say, we've got to work with you. We would love to work with you. It would be a privilege to work with you. We have the world's largest repository of natural sound recordings of birds and mammals and frogs and insects and so on, and also a very large growing library of videos of the animal behaviors of the world. And so it has been a terrific treat to work with Maya and to actually see a teeny bit, the extent to which we get to, of how this creative mind works, who after all has long had a relationship with nature and long sought to unite science with art. To work with her and to realize that inside Maya, everything is interesting. All of the creatures and movements and patterns and places are related. And so when she first visited the lab, and we have met with a number of people over lunch and talked about ideas, and I can just tell you that by the end of that meeting, when Maya finally went back to New York City, I had a community of people up there going, how can this come together? And I just want to say, and Maya may mention this when she speaks, but that her vision for what this project will ultimately become beyond the megaphone is a truly creative, multimedia, multi-year, multi-institution effort to get everybody in the world to be thinking about our responsibilities, our opportunities, using the personal experience that one gets up close and personal with these beautiful creatures, past and present. What a treat. Congratulations.
And thank you, John. I think I'll simply say two words: with delight, pleasure, and a sense of giddiness, Maya Lin.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg, PJ, Mike, Janine, Healy, and John. I'm on a first-name basis because I think I've heard that if I don't finish by 6, you won't get to hear any sounds because the disco beat's going to come on soon. So I'm kind of curious what the disco beat out of the Academy is going to sound like. Looking forward to that. But for now, there are so many of you here tonight that have been so helpful in the creation of What is Missing. To the San Francisco Arts Commission, President Johnston, the commissioners, and especially Jill Manton, thank you so much for your unwavering support for both Where the Land Meets the Sea, the Technical Artwork Commission, because I don't really get commissioned for memorials, that's more something I bring to it, and for What is Missing. And it was a little crazy that we ended up doing 2 projects, but thank you. And the faith you had in this project and the fact that we could pull this off was pretty amazing. Without your support, Jill, and the true respect for the experimentation and searching that this project needed, this would not have happened, so thank you. And to Greg and the board and scientists and staff at the California Academy of Sciences, thank you for all the questions I asked, all the answers you sent me that I might not have looked at the time because I was too worried about the wire landscape, and the fact that in my work, and again, I love science, but I probably think more like an artist, not like a scientist, and thank you for humoring me. Healy, John, Peter, everyone, you guys were great. You sent me so much material, as did a lot of other people, and we did sift through it, but maybe in a more random sorting way at times than you might have thought it was coming out. But I think that's sort of the beauty between, for me, the relationship between science and art, and I would probably say you have now been exposed, maybe more than you want, to an artist process, and it's a little bit more circuitous at times. But thank you, and I hope you like how it's shaping up and what it says. I think my work has always been very much informed by science. I'm very serious. I think we've sent all the scripts over to Cal Academy, to other experts, because there is nothing I want to say here that isn't grounded and very much in fact. In fact, at times we were stripping back some of the texts we were sent because they were almost too poetic and too emotional. So, because at that point you almost bias it, but if I leave it as simple stated facts, which is something I've done a lot in all the memorials I've done, if I can just present the history or the facts and try to pull back and make it a little bit of a tone poem, maybe I'll pull you in. Whereas if I come off too strong at the start, you might turn away and lose interest. So it's a sort of a fine line I've been playing and in some of these works. I want to also thank Scott Moran and his team, who has helped on both installing with the wire landscape and with the cone and all the different crazy iterations that I tried to explore out here, not being a media artist. BBI, Mark, and Sarah, thank you for humoring me. In the first 2 years, we explored many different iterations, and I finally did what you have to do with the media piece out of doors on a sunny terrace. We tucked it in so you could actually look at it and actually see an image. And to Dean Doe, I know you will really be taking care of it now. Last night, Dean was out here and he was checking the humidity inside. And okay, we were a little high, and today it's stabilized. So I know that I leave the cone in incredibly good hands, so thank you. And to WebCore, you've really helped. Again, trying to do 2 major artworks with the price of one, the budget of one. WebCore, if you had not come through, it would have been almost impossible for us to do this, so thank you. John Fitzpatrick and the amazing staff at Cornell, the amount of sounds and film that Cornell Ornithology Labs has so generously donated to this, and the fact that you bought into this from the very start when I really didn't know what this was going to become, I can't thank you enough. And I think the fact that we're a very visual creature, you will notice, you won't see the animal first, you're going to hear it, you're going to read what it is, and then we're going to let you see it. Because I'm going to, again, try to arrest your sense of, again, we tend to be incredibly visual, so if I can stop you from that experience first, maybe you'll pay closer attention to some of these sounds. And again, sounds give us a way of experiencing a place, not just species, but places, and the animals, that puts you in a very different one-on-one relationship with the piece. And I think that'll be sort of something interesting, and whether you're an adult or grown-up, how people react. I would also like to acknowledge the incredibly generous support of National Geographic, Archive, the BBC, and some amazing independent filmmakers who I'll list in a little bit, and also to all the groups that I've called, bothered, asked for advice, and everyone has been incredibly open to letting me visit them, interview them, talk to them, work with them, some more than others. And that list includes the American Museum of Natural History, Wildlife Conservation Society, IUCN, Scripps, the World Wildlife Fund, the Nature Conservancy, Conservation International, NRDC, Freedom to Roam, Panthera, Oceana. People that have donated film and media, the Australian, other than the core donators are Australian Koala Foundation, and forgive my Spanish, the Programa de Conservación ex situ del Lince Ibérico, the Snow Leopard Trust, the Wild Camel Protection Foundation, Independent filmmakers, Larry Arbanis, James Baylog, Lon Bender, Rex Cocroft, Gordon Hempton, Ernie Kovacs, Jeff Rice, Nick Sherman, Mark Shelley, Blasey Duras, writers such as Lawrence Bergreen, who gave me a great quote on Marco Polo, Richard Ellis, who's been helping with texts in New York, Michael Hughes, Elizabeth Colbert, David Montgomery, Roger Payne, David Wilkove, Simon Winchester. I've been calling a lot of people and asking a lot of questions, and I apologize. And then, thanks to my crew, my studio assistants, Amy Helfand, Devin Osborne, John Powell, Katie Commodore, and in sound and media, we have Anne-Marie Hammers, Carolyn Chadwick, Raymond Chavez, Chi Perlman, Alex Chadwick, my media coordinator, Director Dana Carwas, who's here, Luc Dubois, who did sound and programming, her team, David Breslin, who's here, Jose Olivares, Kat Stefanovici, and then Radical Media, James Spindler and Kathleen Russell, they're here. They have helped immensely. They have given us so much of their time and brilliance to work with us to help finesse and the final character of the media. And also Pentagram, Lisa Straussfield and Takaki Okada, and management and Alicia Cheng. And I also have to thank Walla Walla Foundry for the bronze outer cone, and Academy Studios, Dean Weldon, Jim Slater, and their team, who have beautifully created the reclaimed redwood inner cone and all the media and technical specs to make this thing play. So I want to thank them. We begin something today. What is missing? And it begins with an accounting of what we are losing as we watch. In terms of species and habitat loss, and even in loss, I hope it provokes more a sense of wonder at what this planet is capable of and still could return to. This is a beginning. This listening cone, let's imagine it as a portal. I've begun to think of this project as Listen to the Earth, in which we can reveal aspects of the natural world through time. We can look at the past, reveal what we have lost, show people what is missing. We will also be able to connect to the present, linking to conservation and action throughout the world, asking people to see all the good things that are being accomplished around the globe in terms of conservation and species protection. And we can also see into the future. And by 2012, we will have started with something called a green print for the future, which will pose 3 plausible ways of reimagining the global footprint. And Eric Sanderson, who just completed Mannahatta, has agreed to work on this with us. So we start with the past and a new idea of what a memorial can be. It is multi-sided and able to transform to different medias and different sites. We launch here with What is Missing at the San Francisco, California Academy. But in 2 days, we're launching a traveling exhibit in Beijing at the Beijing Art Center. So as we were building these 50 first scenes, we were translating into Chinese 20 to 40 more, many of them focused on animals that will go extinct if we continue to buy for traditional Chinese medicine projects. So that's up and running, and I'll go there next week. I want, in the beginning start of this, I wanted to focus attention not just on endangered and rare species, but on the critical habitats that they need to survive, and on the issues that you may not even realize are disappearing. So I ask you a question: how can we protect it if we don't even see it as existing? Many of the common songbirds we knew as children are in a 70 to 40% decline. What else is missing? Rivers that run freely to the sea, migratory corridors on air, on land, and in the ocean, the visibility of the stars at night. So I'm going to begin to start. Devin, I think we're going to start this thing up in a second. I'm going to read to you the beginning intro. Every 20 minutes, the piece repeats with the same intro and the same conclusion, with a different sound and a different background hidden within the text. And it starts with what is missing, the species that have gone extinct, the species that will go extinct in our lifetime, the species we will never know because we destroyed their habitats before we ever knew them. On average, every 20 minutes, a species will disappear from the planet. And the time that it takes you to view this film, one species will have vanished from the planet. And at the conclusion, same sort of text hiding a place beneath it. What is missing? Scale, abundance, the ability of animals to migrate freely, the longevity of species, the sounds of once common songbirds in our backyards, the ability of animals to hear and see underwater, the visibility of the air, mountaintops, the oxygen in the ocean, rivers flowing freely to the sea, the visibility of the stars at night. Envision a map that shows a future that balances our needs with the needs of the planet, creating a way of living sustainably with the Earth. Can we imagine rearranging the lights? Can we learn to share the planet? Thank you. So it should start turning on. So what we've got is a set intro, a set conclusion, and then we will continue to build more scenes. We've got about 50 scenes made, maybe 40. We had a few typos in some, so they're back being rendered. And they're random play. So hopefully you can come here and visit, and you will not hear, you certainly won't hear the same sequence, but you'll be hearing different things. This is one of my favorites. It's the common loon. And there are many species that I'll be focusing on that were common one time that are no longer common. Anyway, so it'll play in a random mode, and then every 20 minutes it wraps with the same conclusion, so that there'll be a continuity and yet not a repetition. So enjoy. It's not a theater, so you can't read it from back there, so you have to kind of walk up to it. And yes, you can sit inside, but you have to take your shoes off. Thank you.